U.S. women's rugby sevens. I won't spoil it, but I've had fun watching these Olympics. It's definitely something I enjoy. I love the amateur aspect that does arise still in some of the sports. And, from watching the men's gymnastics last night and the excitement and the enthusiasm, it's an inspiration in so many ways. So today, accidentally, I'm going to go back to the beginning. I was tweaking the YouTube channel a little bit, the Mindful Classroom, and it asked to have an anchor video, something that really explains what this channel is about. So that's today. I think I've talked about it in the past, but I did so with a lot of other information. So today I'm limited by having to get ready for work in a little bit and getting a late start. So it'll be a concise video that talks to you about the Mindful Classroom, both the YouTube channel and my coaching. So first, the name, the Mindful Classroom. I think it's a combination of parts of my life, being a meditation mindfulness teacher, but also spending 32 years sharing a classroom with thousands of students and how much I've learned from those students. And that's the transition that initially, when I think I looked at teaching, I was this sage on the stage that I stand in front and I have the podium and I'm just offering all of this information I have. And over time, it evolved into realizing that I learned a lot about life from the students who sat before me. And we, in essence, kind of shared this equal teaching. I think that I understood current trends because I was a teacher for so long. It's one of the things that I worry that I'll lose the longer I'm out of the classroom, that I'll lose that connection and that youthful energy that came from having such a job. So in that, it sort of reminded me of the idea of like when I researched and looked up Exeter and their classrooms, and certain classrooms where the room is a round table, there's 15 students, and the teacher sits at an equal seat at the round table. And while I may initiate that conversation, it is a conversation more so than simply a lecture at. It's an exchange, there's a give and take. So I like the Mindful Classroom. As you look at the imagery, I always use a cairn, a rock stack that comes from B5. I always had river rocks in B5. I stacked them, the kids stacked them, and they were always a symbol of patience, perseverance, and impermanence. Because no matter how wonderful you got that rock stacked, and no matter how high it was stacked, it was eventually going to fall over. And it was a reminder in life that don't rest on the laurels of your accomplishment, because there's always something new to do. And we're always moving forward and evolving. The image also has the background of the beach, because I like the idea that the true mindful classroom, you can learn anywhere. It doesn't have to be in a specific room. In fact, learning should be an experience that happens all over the place. And being lucky enough to have read Wallace J. Nichols' Blue Mind, the beach, it qualified why the beach plays such an important part of my life. It really looked at the idea of water and why we're happiest when we're around water or in the water, and that connection that it has. So all of that played together in the perfect learning environment would be that mindful classroom. So on YouTube or Spotify, or the shorts that I pull out and put up on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, the mindful classroom is, I guess, I can't say an exchange of ideas necessarily, although I get comments and I do like the comments, and I think the comments offer good food for thought for me. The mindful classroom is really me verbalizing and working through ideas and information out loud. So it'll vary. Once a week, I'll try to put up a meditation video. It's something that's so important in my life. My meditation practice has really shaped my life, and over the course of a decade, I really feel like it's impacted me off the cushion as well. That I've been able to incorporate some of the breathing techniques and some of the ability to react less to what happens around me because of the practice that I've had in sitting and realizing that my thoughts are something that happens, but they don't control me. And in fact, I can slow them down. I can look at the ridiculous thoughts and say, why am I worrying about something that might happen in a year? What can I do right now? Because I can't change what's going to happen in a year unless I act now. And worrying about something that might happen in a year wastes my enjoyment and my energy in this present moment. So meditation has helped me immensely with that. So that's a way to bring meditation from the mornings when I used to do it in school, or the beach meditations that I will have a word coming out that I'm going to start again this weekend. So August and September, I'll be back on Broadway Beach doing meditation. And then anything that I happen to be reading. So, I bring a lot of ideas from the books I'm reading and then my take and my discussion on where they might go, quotes that I read, and then the thoughts that happen to come through my quote. So it is a free form. So some of these episodes are as long as I sit in a cold plunge, and some of these episodes may go on for 30-35 minutes, depending on how much I have to say and how much I'm thinking about what comes up. I hope you benefit from it. Uh, I do. And in many ways, it is a selfish endeavor because, as I say to people all the time when they comment, I'm not coming from a point of I have the answers. I'm working toward the answers myself. And I'm working toward the answers on camera in front of you. And if it helps anybody, that's a fantastic thing. I appreciate everybody who listens. I appreciate all the comments that come along my way. Which brings me to my next point. The Mindful Classroom is also the name of my coaching business. I'm working with a few people right now. It is an incredibly rewarding experience. So if I were to really look at what I focus upon, it is purpose and then performance. So really finding your true purpose, investigating where you are and what is it that wakes you up in the morning, I guess is where I could say what purpose is. There's a concept in Japan called ikigai, and it is the concept of a rewarding and a healthy life. And the first concept of ikigai is don't retire, which in many ways seems like I'm flying in the face of that because I retired from teaching. But as I was talking to somebody when I was up at the College of New Jersey, I really don't like to use the term retired. I just shifted the direction of my career. Because if you can't get up in the morning and know that you have a purpose that drives you through that day, it's really hard to get the most out of life. And it's really hard to feel good about yourself. So the first aspect of my coaching business is helping you find your purpose. And notice the key there is I didn't say I find your purpose. I help you find your purpose. I'm going to get into that once I kind of qualify here, the idea of coaching in and of itself. And then the second part is how can we hone our performance? What small steps can we do on a daily basis to make us more effective at what we do? And those small steps might be improving. Those small steps might be organizing. And in many cases, those small steps are stress reduction. Aside from what we do in our performance, how do we help ourselves reduce the stress that naturally comes with so many of the jobs that we do? So my coaching kind of runs the gamut of that. The Mindful Classroom will be up. I've had a couple delays, but I'm on it. It will be up by the end of the week. It will not be perfect, the website, because I'm not waiting for it to be perfect. I have some photographs coming. I have some things coming that will be improving as it goes along. But the main thing is to get the information out there for you. So, what I want to do now is kind of, we hear this concept of coaching quite often, and looking at really what it is in our lives and where it in fact comes from. So, I trained through a program with Jay Shetty. You may know him from his podcast. He's got a couple books, Think Like a Monk, The Eight Rules of Love. And what happened was I liked his style and I liked the message he brought. I thought that it resonated with me. So through that seemed the perfect program for me to go into. And it was a series of book study. There were online lectures. We had discussion groups that we met every week, um, larger groups and then smaller groups. And then we actually went into the coaching process. I coached 6 different people through that process and kind of honed my skills, got feedback, and that's where that came from. But one of the things he talked about was the difference in the different realms that kind of fall in line with coaching. So if you think about it, somewhere along your life, you probably had a mentor. I did. Um, I had many mentors in my teaching process. And if you think about, this is all going to be like driving a car. So this whole analogy will compare each one of these things to driving a car. And that mentor will tend to share their experience with driving the car, the wisdoms they learned, the lessons they learned, kind of like a driving instructor. They'll tell you the things that you should be doing. So based on their history, based on what they have experienced. You can also look at perhaps that you've seen or you see a therapist, which is a tremendous thing. Anyone who's ever been in my classroom knows that it's a personal belief that it should be in the American system covered and everybody should be able to see a therapist because I think it's something we all need. The therapist might look under the hood and tell you why the car is not working. They'll actually open up the hood of the car. They'll look at the engine. They'll tell you what's wrong. They'll give you suggestions on how to fix it. They might look at what's holding you back from driving the car. They'll look at your past experience. Maybe you had some accidents. And what can you do now to liberate yourself from that? In addition to exploring what's stopping you from getting into the car, they'll help you fix the problem. And in that, I think that therapy and coaching work well together because they complement 2 separate things. They both do 2 very different things if they're done right. You can also maybe see a consultant, and they're going to give you the owner's manual, and they're going to tell you everything you want to know about the workings of the car, the theory of driving, an action plan. They'll suggest what's the best fuel for you to use in that car, how fast you should go, and then they'll leave. And maybe 6 months later, they'll come back and they'll see how you've managed the actual driving part. So a consultant will come in for a short period of time. They'll tell you everything you need to do. Then they're out. And then maybe they come back. It depends on the situation you have. The coach, my role in this is I'm going to take a seat in the car. I'll be in the passenger seat. And I'm going to encourage. I'm going to endorse. I'm going to acknowledge. And I'll be your thinking partner. I'll ask you questions on why you're making the choices you're making to help you develop your own sustainable driving style. And eventually you'll feel confident enough to go alone. That's the idea. So in a typical coach client relationship, you may meet every week for a month or 2, depending on what you need and where you are. But ideally the goal is then to pull it back a little bit and maybe meet every 2 weeks and sit and kind of talk about things. And then once you get the confidence and self-awareness, I can really back out as a coach. And perhaps all you're going to look at is a check-in every now and then. Almost like a tune-up when you feel like you need it or you need something to come along. I listen. I give you a safe, confidential space. And largely, I ask questions. Now, every now and then, there may be a suggestion. I really believe that comes from the teaching background that I have more than the coaching background. But it's never, ever more than just a suggestion. And generally, it's just questions. I'm asking you questions for you to come up with your own plan and why it works best. And then the nice thing is, whatever you set up to do for the week, you check in with me the following week or in 2 weeks and see how well it worked. Did it go, like, how effective was it? Basically, I help you get from where you are now to the destination you want to be faster than you could do it if you did it alone. That's the idea of coaching. So the mindful classroom is kind of a mix of those two worlds. In the short term, it's videos I put up, thoughts, my meanderings for the day, kind of like today. In the long term, ideally, it's a coaching business that some of you may want to take advantage of. I will give you a wealth of ways to reach out to me. Most of them are online, but I'll put up an image at the end too, so that it can be here for the long term. So that's going to be my flagship video on YouTube, the Mindful Classroom, and where it is. So to close out, I figure I'll share one little piece of thought-provoking information with you. I've read from this book before. This is the Daily Stoic, 365 Meditations. So if we look at today, July 30th, let's see what we have. Trust me, real joy is a serious thing. Do you think someone can, is the charming expression, blithely dismiss death with an easy disposition? Or swing open the door to poverty, keep pleasures in check, or meditate on the endurance of suffering? The one who is comfortable with turning these thoughts over is truly full of joy, but hardly cheerful. It's exactly such a joy that I would wish for you to possess, for it will never run dry once you've laid claim to its source. That comes from Seneca, Moral Letters. We throw around the word joy casually. I'm overjoyed at the news. She's a joy to be around. It's a joyous occasion. But none of these examples really touches on true joy. They're closer to cheer than anything else. Cheerfulness is very surface level. Joy, to Seneca, is a deep state of being. It's what we feel inside us and has little to do with smiles or laughing. So when people say that the Stoics are dour or depressive, they're really missing the point. Who cares if someone is bubbly when times are good? What kind of accomplishment is that? But can you be fully content with your life? Can you bravely face what life has in store from one day to the next? Can you bounce back from every kind of adversity without losing a step? Can you be a source of strength and inspiration to others around you? That's Stoic joy. The joy that comes from purpose, excellence, and duty. It's a serious thing. Far more serious than a smile or a chipper voice. Food for thought. Can we look at the divisiveness and the ugliness and still see the joy that's in our lives and not weigh the world down with our complaining and our negativity and all of those things that, if we're not careful, we fall into the habit of doing that doesn't help us, and it really doesn't help anybody who's around us. So that's the Mindful Classroom for today. It's going to be our benchmark video. I look forward to talking to you later in the week. I'll probably get maybe 2 more episodes up this week. Got a little bit of painting to do, a couple things to keep me busy. But take care, all. Thank you for joining me.